new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I'm Kathy from the Delafield Quilt Company, and this video is part of a summer-long series for the 2025 Summer Quilt Along, and we are on block number 5. If you're interested in sewing along, we've got all of the patterns and block information available on our website. It's under Quilt Alongs and 2025 Summer Quilt Along. So block 5 is probably one of the more challenging ones of this 8-week-long series, but it's still beginner-friendly. Here are the fabric requirements to make one block. And this is just for one block. You will need to times 4 because you need a total of 4 of these blocks in the quilt. And here's where the blocks are placed in the quilt. Let's get started. I've already got all of my pieces cut for one of the blocks. Again, you need a total of 4 of these. And I'm going to start by making 4 at a time flying geese. That's one of my favorite methods for making flying geese because there's virtually no waste and it's pretty quick to make 4 at a time. So we're going to start by taking the F piece, which is a 4 1/4 inch square, and then our C piece, which is a 2 3/8 inch square, and we need 4 of those total. And to start, I am just going to draw a diagonal line on the back of those 4 C pieces. And when I'm drawing my line, I'm using my ruler, and I like to have my ruler just slightly below the top and bottom diagonal points, just enough for the thickness of the pencil. And you do want to use a fabric-friendly pencil. You're not going to see this line, but you wouldn't want it coming back and bleeding out your fabric later. And then I'm just going to draw my line starting in the middle and working out to the edges. And I'm going to repeat that so that I have that diagonal line drawn on all 4 of those C squares. So now I need to create my 4 at a time flying geese. So I'm going to start by placing one of the C squares with the line facing up on the top corner of the F square. And then I'm going to take another one of those squares, make sure that that diagonal line is lined up on both of those squares, and I'm going to place it on the bottom corner. And then I'm just going to put a few pins to keep these in place. And now I'm going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on both sides of the diagonal line. And for my sewing machine, I use my 1/4 inch foot, and then I move my needle one position closer to the edge that I'm sewing on to make sure that I've got that scant 1/4 inch. Once I've got one side sewn, I lift off my presser foot, I pull so I'll just have a little bit of slack in the thread, and then I turn the piece around and sew down the other side. Now I've got both of those sides sewn, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut right on that pencil line that I drew earlier. And then I'll have these 2 pieces here. I am going to press the triangles open. Right now that I've got this pressed, I'm going to take my other C squares, I'm going to put one on each of the pieces, and I want to make sure that diagonal line starts from the top corner and ends between those 2 triangles pieces that I just pressed. And I'm going to put a pin to keep that in place. And now, just like I did before, I'm going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. Now that these are sewn, I am going to cut right on that drawn line, and then I'm going to have 4 of my flying geese. And again, I'm going to press those triangles open. Now I need to trim these down, and I need to trim them so that they are 3 1/2 inches wide by 2 inches tall. Now to help trim these, I want to make sure that I've got that center point of the peak of the flying geese right in the center. I should have a 1/4 inch above that point to the edge. And I am going to use the 45-degree mark on my ruler just to line up against one of those edges to make sure that I've got it nice and even. And then I'm just going to trim it down. And then I'm just going to check my measurement to make sure it's that 3 1/2 inches by 2 inches. And then just repeat it on the other 3. Okay, now I'm ready to sew the block together. And I've got all of my pieces laid out here. And I am going to just start by sewing the flying geese to the 3 1/2 inch by 2 inch rectangles. And then I'm going to sew these little 4 patches in each of the corners. and then I'm going to sew the rows together, and I'm going to press the seams for each row in opposite directions just so they nest nicely. And this is what the finished block 5 looks like. And it should measure 9.5 inches square. Again, you need a total of 4 of these for the quilt. Alright, I hope that you liked this video. If you're sewing along, that is awesome. I would absolutely love to see your pictures. I have instructions on how to tag me in the handouts that you can download on our website. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe.